the timetable. So after assigning teachers the subjects, now those subjects that you have assigned the teachers is what will appear on the timetable. And the other thing that is needed before we create a timetable, you can see here, it is the classes. So you have to at least add a student, at least one student in each class that you want to create the timetable. Now, so those were the major requirements. So you must assign the teachers the subjects, and then those classes to appear in the timetable page, they must be assigned. They must be at least a one student there. Now let's go to the next step. So here is where you select the timetable, where you want it to, the days of the week where you want the timetable to cover. So it can be during the weekends, or depending on the school, you can just leave the weekends. Then the next thing here, we select the number of lessons per day. So if your school hosts 10 lessons per day, you can just select it here, but most uses 8 lessons per day. Then the next thing, you choose the duration of the lesson, the duration of each and every lesson. So if your school uses 35 minutes, you can just choose 35 minutes. If 40, you can just select 40 minutes. For our case, we'll use this one. And then this one here is where we set the starting time of the lessons. So most of the schools uses 8:20. So you just select here 8:20. If you start your lessons at 7, you just set here at 7. Then the next thing here, we create what we call the breaks. So in between these lessons, there will be break. Now for this case, we have here what we call the tea break. Tea break will appear after lesson 2. So you are telling the system to place a tea break after lesson 2. Anytime you want to add another break, you click here custom. Sorry. You click here custom, and then it will bring it here. See the customed. So you can just bring, for example, if you have, I think, if you want to add another break in between here, you just click here, then you click at what time should it appear. If it is lesson 8, you click here, and then it will automatically go to lesson 8. See here, custom break. Then we can just click here to be at lesson 3, it will shift here at the middle. So based on the so most of the time the maximum break is this tea break, long break, lunch break, and games. Now we can delete this one customed break, and then you add events. Now when there's this event like clubs and societies, which was usually appear as the last lesson at the lesson 8, you can still add them here. Now you can, for example, if you have debate, we can just select here to be debate lesson 8, and then we can create another event here. So if you want to create another event, you click here, add another event. So you can add another event, you select which day should it appear, then Wednesday, and then we say maybe at lesson 8, then we say maybe agriculture practicals. Then saving creating all this form, you save configuration. The next step, we come here to by subjects. Now we can open each class might have different appearance of a subject per class. Now we can just open, for example, this grade 9. Now in this grade 9, we want, for example, computer science to appear 4 times a week. We just select it from here. Then if it is Kiswahili, you want it to appear 4 times a week or 5 times a week, you just change it from here, so that when it creates timetable, it will make sure that the subject, for example, the subject Kiswahili, this Kiswahili, where has Kiswahili gone? This Kiswahili appears 5 times a day, 5 times in a week, 5 times in a week. Then from there onwards, so you can just set this into your specified way you want to add in the school, and then you can still add some few subjects if they don't exist here. For example, we can see that, for example, pre-tech is not appearing here, so we can still just come here, and then we had the pre-tech technical studies. Then from there we can even view the pre-tech has how many lessons set, which is already set by the system. You see here is 3. We can just select it to be maybe 4, depending on how you choose. You can still just come back here. You see now it is 4. So it will appear 4 times in a week. Now this one is based on category. Now you want this subject to appear in the morning, you just select it here. If you want to change, you can just change it from here. You click and then you change. You can always delete the subjects from here, but it is not necessary at all. Then here is the next step. We go from subject, we move to teachers. Now from the teachers, here at the teachers portal, you can just here is where we can modify how the teachers will appear in the system. Like for example, we can come to another teacher like Limo. Now, so Limo, maybe he's working at 2 institutions at once. Maybe he's teaching maybe a college somewhere. So maybe he does not appear maybe Fridays. So you can just select Friday, these tables, to make sure that when the system generates the timetable, it does not place any lessons that he teaches on Friday. Or maybe he cannot appear maybe in the morning. Maybe he usually arrives maybe after tea break. You can just select these boxes for the tea break, before tea break, so that when the system generates the timetable, it places his lessons within this area. And then depending on the school, you can set the maximum number of lessons that he might have per week. You can set up to 40, 35, and then you select the maximum number of lessons that he might have per day. So if maximum wants to be 4, if you want maximum to be 8, so that at least this thing can be achieved. So instead of you marking here Friday manually, step by step, you can just come here. So instead of just marking Friday, the whole of Friday, we can just click here Friday. So automatically when you click Friday, it means that he won't be unavailable on Friday. But if it is specific time, he can't be arrived maybe before this time, or maybe by this time we want to be at school, we just select that way. So maybe if someone is usually around maybe on Monday to Wednesday, you just select from Monday to Wednesday. So automatically the system eliminates Thursday and Friday from placing any subject for this guy. So you can unmark and can mark anytime. And then the next thing, we go to timetable. Timetable, here you will find where all the things will appear. So for this case, this grade 1, we have not assigned any subject. We have not assigned any teacher and any subject. So you see, if you want to assign a student, if you want subjects to appear here, we'll just go to my teachers. Then we'll assign at least a subject. We can assign here a subject. For example, maybe it was grade 1, maybe we can just select maybe grade 1 North, grade 1 East, any grade 1. I think I deleted the stream from the system. But for example, we can just take another sample of a class which we have not assigned any class, any teacher. Let's say grade 1 North, right? Yeah, grade 1 North, you see it is empty. Now we'll come here and assign teachers at grade 1 North. So we can assign this teacher grade 1 North, grade 1 stream North, then select subject, maybe mathematical activities, Swahili. Then we can just assign the class. Now after assigning that class, we can just come here to the timetable, and then we view we view specifically for the grade 1 north. So we'll come here to the timetable, and then we can just refresh or click generate. Now we assume that, oh, I'm not in grade 1 north. Grade 1 north, you see. Now if you want to modify this Kiswahili to appear at least 2 times in this class, we just come here to subjects, then we pick grade 1, then we pick Kiswahili. Was it Kiswahili? Kiswahili to appear 2 times. I think it was Kiswahili, right? Kiswahili subject, then we select the grade 1, and then we choose Kiswahili. Right, Kiswahili, yep, Kiswahili. You see it is already set at 4, or we can just put it to be 5. So that now when we come here to the timetable, you see here currently it was 4. We can just refresh it, then generate. So it will appear here, I guess. Now this is 5. Now the because we have only these subjects, so it will align them in a single row, and it will follow the order. So since we assigned the Kiswahili to appear in early in the morning, but you see when we have a lot of subject appearing early in the morning, so it will not retain this position. We have English, which will appear in the early in the morning. You see, you have to interchange. So Kiswahili will not always appear there. And then let's go to the next. So we can see, for example, a class which is well populated here, grade 9 north. So the next thing that we want to do, if we want, for example, this teacher maybe wants to swap with this teacher. So what we'll do, we'll just come here, social studies, we want to swap with integrated science. We just click here, it will give us an option. So we want to swap it with integrated science, and then we'll save the changes. So integrated science, it has been swapped to here. Then we just assign this also social studies so that we can swap. So this here allows you to edit yourself. So you see we have swapped social studies with integrated science. That's for the case of any arising issue. I think that that's how we create the timetable. So the first thing you make sure you have the classes. The next thing, you assign subjects to teachers. Then after you have assigned subject to the teachers, now you can just come and create the timetable. You'll fill the form. Now the next thing that we can do, you see there is here something like this event we had added, the AgriPrax. We can have these games here, and then we can have another lesson there based on the. So you see here we set that to be 8, maximum of 8 lessons. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We count this debate as the 8th lesson, P8. So the breaks are not counted as lessons. So you say if you want to create tea break, you make sure you set after 2 lessons we have tea break. After the 4th lesson we have long break. Then we have after the 6th lesson we have the lunch break. After the 8 lessons we have the games. It is not for example, if your lessons ends at this one 3:20, it's not a must you add these games. So these games gives the break before we assign the next lesson, which will be maybe the preps. And then this is the analytics. So here it will tell you that no teacher has been assigned in grade 1A, no teacher has been assigned in grade 1 South. So all these will be like the warning. It tells you which classes has no teachers.